How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to one of our update videos. We are covering the update notes, giving some perspective and thoughts on the various changes in the game, balances, things they've brought in. We have a lot to look forward to. We have Milepost Zero. A few of the highlights, they're calling off the legendary crafting, best builds, vendor history log, and start your own caravan, which will be later in the month. I am surprised they didn't mention this season as one of the highlights, but we also have Season 18 kicking off. There was also a large update. The game apparently got smaller. They did pack, I guess, multiple updates and refined it, so we'll see if maybe we also see the game running smoother. I don't know. There was a lot of discussion as well if people had to re-download their games and potentially lose photos, things of that nature. Seems like everybody kept their screenshots. I have mine, and others have reported no issues, so everything's good. So let's get to the update. We're kicking off with legendary crafting, which is definitely something I want to dive immediately into. I've been hoarding weapons and gear for a very long time, and at this point, with whatever overflow I have, the things that I don't necessarily need, I don't have a shot at potentially learning or even obtaining some of those mods to then attach to other weapons, but let's break down what we are looking at over here. So we have legendary crafting. We are excited to introduce this new iteration of legendary crafting that gives you more direct control over the legendary mods that appear on your legendary items. Before you can start swapping legendary mods onto your gear, you will need to obtain the mod you want to craft in one of two ways: trading for the mod with another player, or scrapping legendary items with your desired mod on it. So again, like I mentioned, I've been hoarding items for a while. Community members have even been gracious enough to hook me up with various items that I'll be breaking down and hopefully learning some of those roles, and then we can potentially mod out, or at least make the mods to give to other people, like it's saying, the tradable mods. So that's going to be something we have to jump into right away. My plan is to jump into my custom world with a ton of items, test it out, break down everything that I can, reload the save and repeat that a couple times, and just see what the basic numbers are. When we get back into our stream on Twitch, what I'll be doing is sharing my findings with the community there, and then I'll wind up breaking down a bunch of stuff, most likely live. I do know a few people were mentioning they would send some weapons my way so I can break them down and hopefully learn some things faster. So anybody hooking us up, thank you a ton. That helps me out immensely. That helps the community out, because now I can also help others kind of fill in the gaps of mods that they were looking for. Again, we can turn, 2-star weapons, or sorry, we can turn 3-star weapons that have 2, let's say, or of 3 good rolls, and if you get that one mod somebody's looking for, you can just make that that weapon that much better with those mods. So I look forward to that. Then it's saying every time you scrap a legendary item, you'll get a legendary script and have a chance at receiving legendary mods in the form of a crafting item. So they're calling it a crafting item, basically the mod that I'm referring to, just removable mods. If you want to look at it like that, you'll have a chance to get it back. So then, not necessarily removable, like guaranteed, but removable in the sense that you'll have a chance to get it and then slap it onto something else. They're saying there's also a chance that you will permanently learn how to craft one of the mods on the item you scrap too. Those loose legendary mods can be traded with other players, but once you craft that mod onto an item, that item becomes character bound. And then of course it can't be traded, sold, nor dropped in the world. I'm really hoping at some point they make it not character bound, but like account bound or something, where you can maybe move items between other characters for those that have maybe multiple characters, different builds, things of that nature. It's saying once you obtain your desired mod, you can head over to your armor workbench to attach it to a legendary item in exchange for a legendary script. Each time you replace a mod on an item, the cost to replace another will increase. If you are lucky enough to learn how to craft the mod, head over to your Tinkerer's workbench to craft it. The crafting cost will vary depending on the mod. Mods require legendary modules and various other items to craft that you can find around the wasteland. So what was it, during QuakeCon, We had John Rush and the other dev up there talking about different things. They had mentioned, you know, you might have to collect bobbleheads. So all those bobbleheads we've been able to collect and hoard might be put to good use. We might have to hunt down some more. Very curious to see what the crafting costs for all these various mods are. And then it's saying, to aid in the exploration of new mod combinations, we have relaxed the legendary mod restrictions on weapons. We are excited to see what you craft. So, this is interesting because explosive rolls on energy weapons are a thing again, but not for every weapon. I know you can't do it with a Tesla, and I forget what the other rolls were, but I believe a plasma caster and a few other items you can actually make them explosive, which is pretty cool. You should get a, let's say, extra bit of DPS, a little bit of fighting power in that regard, and then I'm not too sure what other restrictions they would be talking about, so we'll have to find out together. With this mod, or this introduction of these legendary mods and little change in legendary crafting, cores are also discontinued, and they did mention this, so now when we log in we should notice a 1-to-1 conversion ratio from whatever legendary cores we had into script. Moving on to Best Builds. Best Builds is a new social system that allows you to submit, visit, and rate camps, and then the camps with the most votes will be shared and populated throughout the wasteland for all players in adventure mode to see. You'll be able to visit these amazing creations and enjoy the comfort, design, and unique tastes the builder has in store for its visitors. While building, if you happen to appreciate the builder's camp, you can show your support by leaving a like. We hope this allows our dedicated player builders an opportunity to show off their creations, as well as inspire other players to create and submit their own best builds. Very excited for this. So first, I will mention there are a ton of super creative people, not just, let's say, in our community and the communities that we've been able to visit, but the builds that I've seen, and even more recently, I don't even know what Marilyn Monroe 3D optical illusion thing that was created. I saw just a quick preview of that. People are super creative in so many different ways. It's not even just about furnishing. Now we're working on optical illusions. So I'm so curious to see what people do come up with at the the larger community. For our community, one thing that we've been able to do for basically almost more than a year at this point, but as much as we encourage creativity within our community when we're playing 76, basically last year around Halloween we had started encouraging the community to build a Halloween camp. Towards the end of the year we worked on a holiday camp, we had our Christmas camp up, and then earlier this year we actually had different themes, whether it was the gas station, the water park, or other things that we kind of snuck in there. Some of these designs really have inspired me, and now I'm starting to utilize a lot of different, let's say, building tricks and design ideas. And I've had a blast, and I plan to continue to, let's say, come up with these different design challenges for our community, which has been a lot of fun, and I'll mention that those videos are on my YouTube page, so keep an eye out for that. But now that we have the opportunity to also show others and learn from others and see other people's builds, I'm very excited. So I'm definitely going to be encouraging people to submit them as quick as they can. I think if you have multiple camps, you should be able to submit multiple camps. We'll see in a second, I guess. But talking about submitting your camp, once you have a camp that you would like to show off to the wasteland, you can submit your camp through the best build submission option. This is found by opening up the camp, the slots list on the paper map, and then selecting the camp you wish to submit. Once you have entered the submission window, you'll be able to take a few photos and tag your camp with the appropriate identifiers. So like whatever keywords, that's going to be crucial, I think, to getting a lot of stuff out there. And I think you have a limit to it, so I don't think you just mash every single keyword or hashtag, to help make it stand out from the crowd. And then once you are happy with how your camp is represented, you can submit your best build. The best build will be added to the list of other players' created builds. If you happen to make changes to your best build, you can easily resubmit the newly modeled camp without losing any likes. That's just pretty cool. Alright, so anything previously earned. You can resubmit your best build by going to the Manage Best Builds found in the activated camp slots. Okay. You can visit and rate. It is saying for visit. Upon your travels in the wasteland, you'll notice a few new locations with a blue ribbon on the paper map and on the compass. These are player creative best builds. You'll be able to fast travel to these camps the same as you would with any other camp. While visiting, please take time to sit down, relax, and enjoy the experience the builder has in store for you. Do not delay on checking out a camp that piques your interest. And then it's saying best builds rotate in and out every hour. So I like that. They're rotating. I feel like I need to know more information though. So let's say I submit a camp. How many hours? Excuse me. How many hours do you have to? Basically, do you have to be online for that? Do you I'm very curious to see how this is gonna work. So if you play for like a couple hours, does that mean you're guaranteed to show off your camp? Like I have so many questions, and I don't think I've seen too much on this just yet, considering the update just hit a couple hours ago. We'll have to see. Then it's saying for the rating portion, if you happen to find a best build that you fancy, feel free to show your support to the builder by giving them a like. You can like a best build by going to the best build icon on the paper map by selecting like, and then giving the builder a like will help show other players this camp is indeed a best build. So I'm not sure if like just people going over there and giving it like a thumbs up will be enough to keep it persistent if it does cycle out every hour. Maybe that'll bring it back into rotation. I'm very curious. There's a ton of people building things. Again, I encourage everybody to submit a camp. I'm not seeing anything about limitations, so I'm not sure if it's only one at a time, if you could do multiple. I want to say you can do multiple, but I don't have that info ready. We'll have to find out. So the next thing, and this is actually going to be big news for people that are more into the, selling, flipping items, plans, anything that you can throw into a vendor history log. And I feel like we've been talking about this since vendors came out. Your vending machine having a log, we even mentioned like, oh, you could hook it up to maybe like a terminal, and then you can go into the terminal and just go through, and you can kind of like still have that like Fallout feel, like you're going through a terminal trying to find information. So what they have is just a little bit different. It says learn about the hottest items at your camp vendor with the vendor history log. Accessible from the paper map or your vendor, this log shows you what items were sold, their price, and who bought it. The vendor history log only stores transactions that have happened during your current play session, which is good. I imagine like they also don't want to add too much, your game is just logging a ton of sales and then it's just persistent. That could probably easily get out of hand. Especially when you have somebody that goes to your camp and buys like one thing of ammo at a clip and it just keeps buying, In any case. And then it's saying after your session ends, the log will be cleared to receive a fresh log when you start playing again. Super useful, especially when you go to fast travel and then in the middle of you loading in, you hear the noise that somebody just purchased something. The text flashes real quick and you just miss it because you're loading in. I've had that happen way too many times. Most of the time you can then pause the game, go to the map and see who's there anyway, but at least now there's no more guessing. You'll have a log to check out. Alright, so this was content that was originally planned for today but got pushed back. I'm a big fan of, hey, just take the time to get it right. Don't rush it out. Make sure it's good for us to enjoy. We got some stuff to hold us over until later in the month. But a bump in the road. Near the border of Skyline Valley, you'll come across the ruins of an abandoned headquarters once owned by the Blue Ridge Caravan Company. They've had a challenging time operating within the presence of the storm, but luckily for them, you arrive. A seasoned traveler of the region, well versed in all forms of combat, even a few forms of diplomacy, although that won't work here. The company decides to give you franchising rights to start your own caravan branch under their flag. Once set up, you will escort caravans across the Shenandoah region and recruit a strong crew of varying professions. This crew will help you build up your own personal outpost, where new rewards await you. While you travel across Skyline Valley, make sure you take a beat to help your fellow aspiring business dwellers with their own caravans. Events, public team bonuses apply to caravan events, and helping someone else will get you back to starting with your own caravans that much quicker. So I'm very interested in this. I feel like any sort of content that I feel like this to a degree could even feel more like single player-esque. Somebody that might want to jump in and maybe want some more personable, let's say, or something that they feel like they're really catering the experience to their own liking. If you have the ability to recruit people and get your own caravan and all that setup, that sounds like a good kind of separate way to expand the content, not just in like an events way, but still like you utilize events because you're gonna have to defend and all that. We'll find out more, so we'll keep an eye out. That'll be later this month. And now we got Season 18, Country Roads. So for Season 18, there's a bunch of goodies I've already previewed. Last season, I was a little bit more critical. I feel like I claimed a bunch of stuff. I think I hit, what, 173 in the scoreboard? Something like that? Or the not scoreboard? Well, we'll see how far we can get this season, because we're also going to have the ability to, I want to say, have repeatables after 100. So post 100, you'll still be able to, I think, complete events. I got to look into that. I don't want to say that just yet. But Season 18, I saw a few things that are on there, and I am excited. We have the combat rebalance coming in. Milepost Zero continues the work we started Skyline Valley to update our combat system. This patch, we are focusing on changes to fire and poison damage and how the damage over time effect works. There's also more rebalancing for creatures and many other changes. It says there's a lot to dig into, so grab a coffee or tea and dig in. Yeah. So I'm not going to read every single one, but let me start to mention the player weapons section. So for fire and poison weapons and mods, fire and poison damage will typically include a damage over time effect, with fire damage trending towards shorter durations and higher damage per second, with poison trending towards longer durations and higher overall damage. Which, for me, that sounds like maybe for bosses. I'm not even sure how that would stack, because that would probably like not, I don't even know how that would work. But maybe bosses, we start using poison damage. Maybe for other fights, maybe we stick to the fire. I know for me, I have the auto axe that has the fire mod. And then it's saying the following weapons and armors, the following weapon, armor, and mods have been updated to align this fire and poison damage over time adjustment. Paired with the creature adjustments further below, this generally represents an increase in damage dealt. So, we want to buff up, we don't want to nerf down. I'm not going to read through all of these. I would say, if you want to read any of these, maybe pause the video, but I will absolutely have the patch notes available in the description. Additional weapon and armor adjustments. Saying, adjust the damage dealt by the Thorn armor. Increase the damage for the Gauss shotgun. Increase the damage for floater freezer grenades. Reduce the damage over time for the cremator's burn to account for it now scaling with weapon damage bonuses. And then it says more info is down below. So I want to say the cremator was doing a ton of damage. Just on contact, it was explosive to say the least. Definitely just blowing up enemies and ripping a hole in your what is it? Fuel, I believe it cost, right? Ripping a hole in your ammo stash. Reduce the self-damage dealt to the player when firing the kabloom at close range, the shotty. Reduce the recoil and base AP for the railway rifle. So now I know a few of us in the community are gonna try to pay close attention to how railways are gonna be working now. And it's saying reduce the fire rate and remove the AP cost reduction for the railway rifle automatic piston receiver. So reduce the recoil and base AP for the railway rifle. And then for the automatic piston receiver, they adjusted that. So basically they're adjusting it where it's going to be also, I believe, firing slower. And now AP is going to be adjusted. We're going to have to just fire away. Aim at, let's say, I don't know, Super Behemoth at like abandoned Bogtown, and then just VATS and pull the trigger and see what the difference is. I have yet to jump in. I heard people were saying that now you can also use them without VATS? I don't believe it. I'll have to see with my own eyes. The Headhunter's Scythe damage has been changed to bleed and adjusted to damage dealt by Electrified Legendary Armor. Ooh. Electrified Legendary Armor, okay. We got some creature balances. Like the adjustments made in the Skyline Valley update, the following creatures have updated health, resistances, and damage. Our goal is to smooth out their difficulty from low to higher level players, making them a reasonable threat for all players. Be sure to try out some of the updated fire and poison weapons against these creatures, as there is now more contrast in their resistances to each damage type. And then we have a list of the various creatures that were balanced. Creature weapons. Weapons used by the following creatures have also been updated, like the updates to fire and poison damage on players' weapons. Creature weapons with fire damage will typically have a damage over time which has higher DPS, and weapons with poison damage will typically have a damage over time which deals more overall damage per hit. I like this. This almost sounds like they're prepping us to get into some like real raids. Some like real, almost like, you know, MMO style content where it's like, alright, we're gonna go in and we're gonna be in a dungeon of some sort for the next like hour. I understand there was the vault at the beginning of the game. I participated in those vaults. I would say the logic of, hey, if you can do this enough times and you learn the route, work together, have a good team composition, and can complete it within a certain amount of time, you would get the best reward. I thought it was pretty interesting, but then all that kind of got scrapped away. And then, what is it, Vault Steel and other things got spread. So the Purveyor and, what is it, Regs, I think, might even have some of those plans. In any case, point being, a lot of what I'm seeing here is trying to make, not necessarily a dramatic change, it's just, it looks dramatic because there's so many things on this list. But now the idea of like, okay, there's going to be certain enemies that are harder, but I'm also going to hit harder. So now if I'm also going to hit harder, they need to make them stronger, so we don't just shred through things. I'm very curious to see, again, how much it contrasts to what we were just doing. And then especially how much damage we're going to be taking. But it almost seems like they're getting us ready for something bigger. Who knows? Everything kind of like, you know, builds upon itself in this game. I feel like Expeditions came from Daily Ops, and now they continue to keep making little updates here and there, adding new things to both Expeditions and Daily Ops. So I would say if the next step isn't another expedition, but something larger, it almost seems like they're setting us up. We'll see. Alright, so for perk changes, these are going to be some interesting changes. I actually believe I might start using a couple, if not most of these. So we have 4 different perks that were changed. We have the Vaccinated perk, increases disease resistances from all sources based on your endurance stat. I would say disease resistance for me, I think, what is it, just survival syringe? Normally just keeps popping up in my inventory. I use those and I don't have to really worry about that. Thirst Quencher, increased action points while not diseased based on your endurance stat. So I want to say I have maybe like 15 endurance. If not, it's up there. So now if I'm maxing out my endurance base and then I am able to get even more endurance and I can have increased AP, that means I can stay in VATS longer. That sounds perfect. So that's one that I'm like leaning towards absolutely having. That doesn't mean I'm going to have it leveled up all the way. I might just have it as like a rank 1 just to see if it makes a difference. We'll see. Iron Stomach increases damage resistance while not diseased. Again, these are all very kind of similar how they function, but now this one is damage reduction. I don't particularly find myself as a squishy player. I do run bloodied, and a lot of times I even go further than I probably need to. But considering my main weapon is, what is it, a Vampire's Fixer, I have my Vampire's Auto-Axe, I lean more towards the utility and like just healing myself during the battle, as opposed to just doing a bunch of damage. So damage I might pull back on, but maybe for larger, you know, bosses or events, we do put that on. So I'm gonna probably, that's a maybe for me. And then the last one, Natural Resistance, increases your energy, fire, cryo, and poison resistances while not diseased based on your endurance stat again. So I like the idea of additional energy resistance. Fire resistance, people were speculating that it might be even better than the one perk that escapes my mind right now. We'll have to test that out, but if this does multiple things, I would definitely spend it. I think it's fireproof. I would definitely put my points into natural resistance over fireproof. So I would say Thirst Quencher is, for me, almost a must-have if I can increase my AP even more. The damage resist is a maybe. I'll even put the natural resistance as a maybe as well. But all those additional resistances seems like it'll be pretty good. For the region bosses, the following creatures have had an adjustment to how incoming damage is reduced. This primarily affects cases where VATS, critical attacks, and damage over time effects would bypass a portion of the intended damage reduction. The Scorch Beast Queen, Wendigo Colossus, and Earl, and the Ultrasight Titan. So no changes to the Goliaths. We already had recent changes with the Goliaths, and I think, well, what I mean by recent changes, I would say whatever was going on with radiation damage, I guess. In that same update, they probably adjusted things, whether it was minimal or, you know, I think we've already had those kind of tweaks for the Goliaths. I guess that they're at where the devs think they should be, but for the other bosses, they did adjust that. We got a lot of bug fixes and improvements. For the camp, we got the Mothman wind chime now correctly displays in the item shop. Fixed an issue with chattering teeth flare, not chattering. I gotta get that. Not appearing in the Tinker's bench or placed on display. I feel like I didn't see that, but I could picture it. Fixed an issue with the plank partitions and junk walls not appearing in the build menu and being unable to be edited. Got it. Fuzzy Mothman plushie no longer faces backwards when placed in display cases. I don't know what's going on with the Mothman plushie. It was that one, and I feel like one other plushie that I had put down on one of my couches. An update hit, and then I came home and it was turned 180 degrees. It went from like sitting forward watching TV to just being turned around like facing the couch. I had no idea what was going on. We had there was phantoms and ghosts. Alright, fix an issue with the pillar display requiring wood to be built despite being made from stone. I think that's funny. I've noticed a few things, like the cost doesn't really match what it is. That's alright, doesn't really need to make sense. The fluorescent lamps in the ice glue refrigerator display case appear to shine when not powered. Okay. Fix an issue where the Fort Fortress wall plank post can be attached to the same attach point, and fences could be attached to the same attach point. Okay. Atomic Shop purchases from the build menu will again correctly give the player a confirmation prompt before completing the purchase. Yeah, I feel like if you were going in, you might hit like A and then just all of a sudden purchase it, or whatever button for your console or platform, right? You always want to make sure you can absolutely double check and not accidentally purchase something. For combat, we got some changes. Made an adjustment to damage modifiers for creature weak points. This will result in additional damage dealt to creatures when weapons with lower damage per hit are used. Okay. Damage over time effects now scale with bonuses to weapon damage. Ooh, okay. So if you, basically the higher DPS you can get, the more your damage over time is going to do. I was actually worried that it would have a base number and it wouldn't go past that. Let's just say, you can only hit 50 fire damage every 2 seconds. I'm not sure how they have it set up, but this is good to know that it does in fact scale and it's not at a base level. Addressed an issue where damage over time effects dealt by players would not scale to match the creature's level. Interesting. I don't even know what that means. So if you're going to fight a low level, it's still scaling it as a high level, so you were doing more damage? I have no idea. We'll have to double check that one. Fixed an issue where certain effects such as damage over time and Vampire's Legendary mod could stack when applied in multiple times simultaneously on a target. This commonly occurs with shotguns, which would make sense though, because you shoot with the shotgun, each individual pellet that's hitting. It could also occur using the 2-shot legendary mod or multi-shot cremator mods in VATS. Interesting, okay. Addressed an issue where damage over time, damage dealt by NPCs could be lower than intended. I'm just, in my mind, quickly going through scenarios that enemies are even... If you run up on an enemy that maybe has like a flamethrower, maybe it should like burn you and kill, maybe get you like... I don't even know. I'm trying to think of what other... We'll have to come back to that one as well. So that just basically sounds like the enemies that we come across will have that kind of buffed up if they had damage over time. Fix an issue that could prevent the poison aura on the Stranglerheart power armor from affecting nearby enemies. Had no idea. I also saw earlier in the list that, what is it, there was a balance to thorns. When I hear Stranglerheart, I also think of like the thorn armor. So I'm thinking, was that doing too much damage? Then maybe they pulled back on that? Not too sure. Adjustments to how damage increases from perks are applied. This will generally result in increase in damage dealt to targets with higher resistances, especially for damage over time effects. That's good. So you might have to like really work for it on certain scenarios, but if you can get like poison damage to be in your favor for those longer battles, that might be the key. Melee weapon damage over time. Damage now scales with strength. Ooh, okay. Fix an issue with the Grenadier perk that resulted in explosions scaling up to twice as large as intended. Oh man. Twice as much? Why not? Leave it there, that's okay. We don't need to nerf that. Fix an issue that could cause some explosions to be scaled smaller or larger than intended. It's interesting because I've been playing on the current character that I'm on for, let's say, a couple years now. I had another character that I was thinking I was going to leave him dormant and then play over there on that character. That character uses explosive. I've actually been on a character that hasn't been using explosive in a while, so I personally wouldn't feel the difference on any of these little adjustments with explosives. Or not explosives, but weapons with the explosive roll. Curious. We're going to have to do some testing on that too. Might have to go back and use some explosive weapons. I want to put an explosive roll on my plasma caster. I have multiple plasma casters, and any of them I think would do very well with that kind of roll on it. But back to the patch notes. Let's see. Effects which increase explosion damage, like Demo Expert, should now increase the damage dealt by the damage over time effects from explosions. Okay. So you're not going to notice as probably as quick of a burst in DPS. Now with that damage over time, you'll notice it after maybe pulling back for a sec. Melee weapon damage over time damage now scales with strength. Oh yeah, we said that already. Fix an issue, got that too. We got all these to bear in mind if we're going to start using more explosive or not. Very curious. Address an issue where Danger Cloud mutation would deal more damage than intended. Okay. Address an issue where damage over time damage could persist on a player when entering the down but not out state, resulting in the player dying immediately. Oh man, that's awesome. We have this happen way more times than I'd like to admit. Goliaths, Encrypted, so many different events. You get hit once and all of a sudden nobody can revive you. I understand with Encrypted, if you're like multiple pylons and you get downed, you're gonna die. Like your health is dropping quickly. Unless, actually no. I take that back, because I remember there's a few times that I was down that I was like, oh, if I'm just down, you can wait like almost 30 seconds to pick me up, and that's basically just one person is not being penalized. But I definitely remember a few times of getting downed and then immediately getting downed after in certain events. Good to know. So basically I think they're just giving you a time frame of being immune from damage as soon as you get downed. Who knows if that actually got fixed or not, you know? Addressed an issue where the bonus to DOT damage from strength from melee weapons and perks could be higher than intended. Huh. Okay. Addressed an issue with the description text for Stranglerheart power armor set bonuses. Noted. So we got a few more categories here. We have gameplay, change how explosive bullets mod, how it interacts with various weapons. I also think that they're pulling back on the explosive, adjusting how it works, and then now that they have it where they want it, they can be like, all right, now you can use that on energy weapons and not have it where the energy weapons are super, you know, OP. I don't know if you can put explosive on, I was saying the plasma caster earlier, the Gatling plasmas, things of that nature. I don't know if you can rekindle your legacy, you know, explosives again. We're gonna have to test some of that out. As soon as we have the ability to roll that onto weapons, we're gonna have to collect as much script as possible too. So we got fix an issue with the light 'em up plasma Gatling flickering on the front neon tubes while in first person. Okay. Speaking of plasma Gatlings. Fix an issue with the harpoon guns crosshair disappearing during the precise aiming in the first person view. Fix an issue with the cultist monarch mask. Did not state its protection against damage and disease from airborne hazards in its description. There's a few things here. I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to pop and pull out a few that stand out to me. And then, of course, the patch notes and all that will be in the description, and you could always pause and see what's going on here as well. For a few of these, improved chainsaw durability. I think that's going to be great. They didn't reduce it. Anything that's a buff is what we want. I will say the chainsaw does break kind of quick, but I didn't think it was like too bad. So I'm sorry. I'm talking about the auto axe. I kind of use the word chainsaw and auto axe interchangeably, even though they're two different weapons. I have no idea with the chainsaw. I take that back. So that's good. I got that improved. That was probably breaking way quicker than the auto axe. Perk effects will now persist when player exit worlds and return. Okay. I have no idea what that means. Player effects will now persist when player effects? What? Like mutations? Something like the ability to take, like, what is the one where you get to herd mentality? Like something like that? I'm not even sure what kind of... Unless they mean perk cards that are being shared. If you leave the server and come back, it'll be... I don't know. Alright, so again, there's a few different notes here in the gameplay fixes and adjustments. Fix an issue preventing duplicate plan drops from holiday gifts. I feel like they keep going back and forth between wanting people to learn all the new stuff first and being able to like just pick up everything. I feel like you should definitely have an increased chance of getting new plans that you don't have learned, and then like a slight chance to get like duplicates, and then once you learn them all, then it just kind of reset. I don't know. I'm not sure if that would help things, but I feel like between different events that give you rewards or masks or anything like that, it's interesting to see how they adjust drop rates and what their strategy is. Fix an issue which prevented corpses from turning into goo piles after being hit by a plasma arrow critical shot. Alright, so again, if you want to catch up on any of the gameplay, patch notes will be available. We got general, fix a crash when fast traveling while camera is half underwater. No clue. That sounds like you're playing, what is it, Oblivion, I think it was, or even maybe Skyrim. I think if you swim to the top of the water and look at a certain angle, you can see underwater. What are people doing over there? Fix an issue with the gain XP challenge giving an incorrect amount of score. I wonder if that was giving not enough or too much. I wonder. A few daily and weekly challenges will now be auto-tracked upon logging into a server as well. Moving down to quests. There was a few things related to crashes, shadowing, or any weirdness, maybe even related to graphical things or performance. From seismic activity, safe and sound, oldest trick in the book, the powerhouse of a cell, I Am Become Death will mention that one. Players who have previously completed the quest but now received the achievement can now receive the achievement by launching a nuke again. I know there was, I think, a couple people that had mentioned that a while ago, that they, even though they drop nukes regularly, they didn't get it for like a while or something, so that's good. Any inconvenience if they can kind of fix up like that. And then again, there's a few other quest related things. We got the UI, fix a display issue with the Pip-Boy effects tab. I understand that people might relate that to the lag, we'll get to that in a second. Fix an issue where icons are incorrect in the Pip-Boy effects tab. Items will indicate if they count as a costume when inspected, so that's good. If you're inspecting it, it'll tell you if it's a costume for the challenge, so you don't try to do that daily or weekly, and it's, you know. And then it says weapons will indicate classification information when inspected. Gotcha. Vendors. Giuseppe now sells Mystery Bobblehead boxes for 20 stamps, and that's at a limit of 6 per day. I wasn't sure if you can buy some, hop servers, buy some more, hop servers. Apparently not. And then last but not least, the known issues. It says the team is aware and are continuing to investigate reports of lag when using the Pip-Boy. We thank you for your patience. If you are experiencing this issue, please contact our customer support team so we can collect more information. I know a few weeks back, maybe like a month ago or more, there was definitely lag when we run the Goliaths. If I was hitting, the Pip-Boy, I was going into the Pip-Boy for whatever reason, just everything was, a snail's pace in the background. Not sure what was going on with that. More recently, I checked again, and it hasn't been impacting me, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But they are aware. Anybody that is experiencing something like that, like they said, if you contact their customer support team, they can try to collect some more information. You can potentially help everybody out and get your issues resolved all at the same time. But definitely a lengthy update we got here. At least the notes we're looking at. A huge chunk of the notes, quite literally, is this giant, not even change, but this adjustment to player weapons and more. I'm excited to jump in. I've got a lot of sciencing to do, as we like to say. Legendary crafting, I cannot wait to dive in. I've already heard from a few people that it's actually not as hard as they thought it was going to be. And I feel like a lot of that comes from the idea that there's a good amount of us that play the game that are veteran players and have been here since the beginning. And if you've been hoarding for a while, if you have a ton of things that you can break down and potentially learn these, roles that you can add to your weapons. For me, I'm going to say, before there's any penalty, what I mean by that is I'm going to go into my custom world and I'm going to break everything down. I'm going to try to collect some notes and I'm going to reset. I'm not going to use my actual weapons on the actual servers, public servers, probably until, let's say, the next stream. So keep an eye out for that. But point being, I can kind of collect this information without it being like just a one and done thing. I don't even want to say dozens. I want to say I have hundreds of weapons that I can script. But now the little piece of perspective / advice that I could give would be, if you have some 3-star weapons that are really good on 2 rolls but not 3, you're basically faced with a decision. Do I break this down and hopefully learn 1 or 2 or 3, whatever I can from this, or do I turn that 3rd roll into something better? Whether, you're able to break these things down yourself or seek out communities that have things learned. For me, I'm gonna have to be very crucial and critical of each item, just because then, even if I don't want it, if somebody else is like, oh, I would love that weapon with a critical, do 50% damage, whatever the case is, that could really help somebody out. So the weapons that, maybe have 2 good rolls, but those 2 good rolls don't make sense on that weapon, those are going to be the ones you want to break down immediately. And I feel like we have a lot of items to be breaking down, whether it's the ones we're hoarding or the items we're still going to need after we break through everything. I'm going to also mention, a few community members have asked, is it possible that the game runs smoother? There's hundreds, no, not even, I was going to say hundreds of thousands, but I don't even know. let's just say all the different items that people have that they're going to be breaking down between every platform, there is some sort of lag associated with that. Anybody that has hit a certain threshold on one of their mules, if you just have everything piled into one character, you go into your Pip-Boy, it loads so much slower because you have hundreds of items in your Pip-Boy. I don't know if that has its own impact on the server. I feel like the devs will say yes. Does it really? Who knows? But I do think that everybody breaking down their items is gonna actually have a positive impact, but it might just be for the person that now has less stuff to hoard, maybe more space on their characters to stash stuff. I don't know. Will it mean it's gonna make the game run smoother? One can only hope, but I don't see that being the outcome. I'm also gonna act with a little bit of caution. Today, being the update dropped, I'm going through and again visiting my custom worlds. I've had a few people say, hey, what happens if things don't break down and give you drops like they're supposed to? Some people say they're going to wait like a week. I cannot blame you. I think that's a safe bet. I think with me also going through my custom world, breaking things down a few times, I'll have some sort of expectation. Like if I break down 300 weapons and I don't get anything learned, then I'm going to be worried. But if it's like a 1% drop, I mean, if I get 1 or 2 things learned, then that's almost like where it should be, just poor RNG. So we'll see. We're going to do a lot of testing. I'm going to need some feedback with our community, with the growing community here on YouTube. So definitely report your findings. I am hoping to learn everything as quick as possible. The issue will be I won't be able to make everything for everyone, because if it costs script, that's also going to hurt me in a way, because you can only get so much script. So we'll figure something out, but I would love to offer my services for the community at large for like adding mods, crafting mods, or not adding mods because that would make it character bound, but crafting certain mods for people to slap onto their weapons to make their own dream weapons. And even like the legendary crafting highlight says, craft your ideal weapon and armor with this updated take on crafting that gives you more control over the mods that are on your legendary items. So again, I feel like that's going to be big for people. We also make the comparison of like, hey, what if it was almost like Diablo, where you could just re-roll one of your aspects or whatever, one of your mods on your weapon just over and over and over again, make it tradable, make it cost a certain material. I still want to have my feet in the water, let's say, on this event or this update. I want to really check out legendary crafting before I give any concrete thoughts on it. I'm interested. I understand change is scary, and I know a few people were like worried that this is going to impact weapon, let's say, prices and what people are selling. I'd argue things might get, let's say, a little bit more expensive, because people are saying like, oh, if everybody can just craft their own stuff, what's the point of like everything else and, you know, vendors? Well, first off, everybody's at the same point. So if I have hundreds of weapons saved up and ready to scrap, the person next to me might only have a couple dozen. So now, if you want to learn, again, I don't know if it's an exact 1% drop rate, but if I want to learn 10 mods, that means I have to I have to go through 1,000, you know, weapons to hopefully learn 10 of those mods. So in my mind, I like to think on a larger scale. Any times that I did my legendary crafting videos and I rolled 10 fixers at a time, I would roll 10 fixers. I would also have the bonus one for 11, but by rolling 10 fixers, I was almost always guaranteed something that was like either a great roll, a conversation starter, things that I could sell, things that weren't always good for me but could be good for others. So after doing that so many times, and after quite literally making over 1,000 fixers over the past so many years, imagine all those fixers being broken down so now I can choose what I want. That still takes a lot of time. So I feel like there's going to be a larger need for script, a larger need for weapons that are 2 good rolls, but the third roll could use some work. So I feel like there's going to be a little shift in that. So we're going to have to keep an eye out for that. Best builds, very excited for that. Again, if I can encourage the community to be creative, I'm somebody that believes, and you know, we've seen this kind of over and over again in our community. Creativity, whether it's camps or shelters, definitely acts as like a catalyst for more creativity. It definitely inspires more people. There are certain things in my current camp that are quite literal things that I've taken from other people's camps and kind of put my own spin on them. And I've given the shout outs to those people who have inspired me and shown us some of the very interesting things that they've come up with, whether it's cannibalistic flamingos to some other things we've decorated our home with. Let's just say you find out more and more what you can do with the existing items in the game, and then each season, if there's new items, you're learning more and more. So it's not just about like, hey, look at what I've built. It also becomes kind of like, look what I've decorated, get some ideas. I think best build is going to be very successful. I just worry that I have to test it out. I just worry that you might submit your best build, and if it cycles out every hour, like, I want to really know, what does that mean? Like, do you have to jump on at the top of the hour, and then hopefully people come across your camp and they're able to raid it? If nobody really goes to your camp, like, I'm so curious. I definitely want to travel around the map and see what people have built and what people have submitted. And I'll probably have to pick a day. I might even pick like Mondays or something. So Mondays, when we're streaming on Twitch, I like to say that's like our creative day. And then we'll normally get into Fallout 76 and something else, and I try to bring some creativity to it, or even just being creative on 76. I think Mondays we might have to start the week with just kind of going around and seeing what the best builds are, or even what people in the community are submitting for their best builds. So looking forward to that. And then speaking of camps and vendors and all that, or I should say the vendor history log, you'll at least know what you're selling now. We got some content to look forward to later on in the month with the caravan. And then we got season 18. Country roads. Or road. Somebody got fired. They missed an S right there. So definitely looking forward to it. Hope you guys found this video informative for those that are sticking out till this point in the video. Thank you guys immensely for the support, checking out what we got going on. There's plenty of YouTube content I think we're going to get into with the legendary crafting, so keep an eye out. I may or may not spend my next stream just breaking stuff down in my custom world before, again, I make it actually count. So if anybody is interested in that, keep an eye out. I will absolutely report my findings and would encourage others to do the same in the comment section over there on Twitch. Come through. But I'm definitely eager to jump into Appalachia, and I hope you guys are as well. I will catch you guys in the next video. Go through the description and all that, all the appropriate links for the patch notes and what I got going on are there. But I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Take it easy, everybody.